It's Christmas morning in the city of the angels, and while decent citizens sleep the sleep of the righteous, hopheads prowl for marijuana, the weed with roots in hell. Tammy Reynolds and Rock Rockwell, movie stars with one foot in Hades, toke sweet tea and Tammy's swank Hollywood digs, not knowing they're playing with fire without asbestos gloves, not knowing that a man is coming to put out that fire. The freewheeling, big-time Big V, celebrity crime stopper Jack Vincennes, the scourge of grasshoppers and junk fiends everywhere, acting on the tip of an unnamed informant, Sergeant Vincennes, blah, blah, blah. You like it, Jackie? Yeah, it's subtle. Nope, it's circulation 900,000 and climbing. I think I'll work into your divorce twice because your wives couldn't stand your crusade, and you got your name from an orphanage in Vincennes, Indiana. The Big V. Y'all, imagine, like, Cormac McCarthy 5 martinis deep, and, like, this is sort of the vibe we got here.
What do we know? What does we? How are the union and the socialist be? Everything I can need, oh I need, oh I need, oh I need, oh what does we? Oh what does we? Oh what does we? Oh what do we? Oh what does we?
Welcome back to Workers Lit, folks. After talking about some much more serious literature and how the Grinch stole Christmas, we have come back to take on some lighter fare with James Ellroy's LA Confidential. The whole team is back, and we have a guest we're really excited about. It is Brian Wishart from Moviepod. Brian, how are you doing?
Doing pretty fine this morning. Thank you for having me on.
And Brian, just checking, you haven't been spotted in Caracas recently, have you?
No.
Okay.
I'm
I just
safe here in Canada.
had to double check. Just had to double check that you haven't been involved in any untoward operations.
The American century of humiliation continues apace.
Yeah.
Yeah, sit tight. We're coming for you, too.
Well, Brian, you would host Moviepod, which, by the way, crazy that you got the name Moviepod. That's pretty impressive. But
Well,
can you tell folks about your show?
Well, movie. It's getting the name Moviepod wasn't too hard because, like, considering that, like, there's a couple of podcasts called like variations of it, but like no one just call it straight up as Moviepod, one word. There's like
I
some
think
old
that's
like
impressive that no one's
there's
thought of
some
that.
yeah. So like I did a movie. It's called Moviepod, a reclaimed cinema podcast. So it's a podcast. I look at movies that have significant change in their reception as time has gone on. So movies that have been kind of like reclaimed in the pop culture, reclaimed by critics. Movies that were bombs when they came out. Now they are considered like to be classics. Like I just did It's a Wonderful Life, which is a movie that was a box office bomb, investigated by the FBI for being communist, and
Hell
only
yeah.
became a kind of a critical darling, or a true critical darling, after it was accidentally put into public domain in the 70s and aired on TV a lot and became a Christmas classic. So
And
it's
you did that with friend of the pod, Johnny Amazic, yeah, from
yes, I
Culture
did.
House.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun
Pretty
with
cool.
that one. Yeah. So it's just cult classics. Movies are truly incredible. I have Digimon the movie coming up next this upcoming
hell
week,
yeah.
and
Let's
that's
go.
not really too much a good. That's a movie that is kind of absolutely insane and doesn't make any sense at all. But I like going deeper into the histories of the movie and how they came to be, and what were the critics saying at the time, and does that actually kind of make sense what they're saying, like, and seeing what people actually get out of these movies despite their oddities.
Well, something that the critics were saying at the time about this book was, what the hell? And some of them meant that in a good way, and some of them meant that in a bad way. What's your history with LA Confidential? Because this was when we were talking about having you on, this was something that you were interested in.
It's funny when like you were talking, you have me on. I was like, all right, what book? The book I'm reading right now is Station 11. That'd be a great episode to come on.
Yeah,
Talk
we
about
had
some
just done
classics.
it.
And then I was like, crap, you guys literally just did it. So I was actually just thrift shopping and picked up a copy of LA Confidential on DVD. So there's just a stack of movies staring right at me. It's like, ooh, this is actually one I've actually been interested in talking about, because like I've never read the book. I've been kind of feeling like reading a noir novel for a while. It's been a while for me. But I always heard that LA Confidential is kind of a miracle of an adaptation. And I just kind of figure like, oh, like how is it a miracle of an adaptation? And like I just heard like it's a sprawling book that they're able to condense into a pretty short, lean movie. and keep most of the fundamentals in there. And I was kind of wanting to always just read the book anyway, just kind of see how much of a, how grave an adaptation it is. And like, I think as a movie, like it gets a lot of it down, but I can kind of see it loses a lot of the grime and darkness that the book has. And I can see that's why Elroy does not like it. The
Oh,
movie.
Yeah, it was weird, like, watching so, like, I spent most of the time reading this book cursing your name for making us have to experience it,
I'm sorry.
'cause
Uh,
it is so fucking long,
yeah,
and
I
there's
didn't know
so
it would
many
feel this
guys.
long. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many guys in this, and I listened to the audiobook, and
Same.
what the guy who does the audiobook does is he gives everyone a very distinct voice, which
Mhm.
helps unless he's doing black characters, in
Yeah.
which case I
Oh
wish he
yeah.
would not.
Yep.
Just
He
do not.
anytime that Craig Wassman did a voice of a character as a minority, it was not great.
It was, yeah, one of the worst things I've ever heard, but,
He's fantastic at Hush Hush, but
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great
yeah.
voice. Yeah, the
or
Sid Hushman voice.
he just gave, like, so he randomly gave one character a lisp, which,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
helped me know who it was. But, like, so I feel like by the end, I kind of had been Stockholm syndromed into, like, caring about the book and
Yeah.
caring about
Yeah.
the characters.
Mhm.
It also helped that about like 3/4 of the way through, I watched the movie, and then I could picture Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce. I could
Mhm.
picture Guy Pearce's beautiful face being beaten in, which I like. That's an interesting thing for me.
I wish that guy
But
would pierce me. Am I right, folks?
yeah,
No, not Ed Exley though.
yeah,
That's about
head sexy.
where the book picked up for me too. Yeah, was having that visual dimension to it. I think I'm the one person on the show who didn't listen to the audiobook.
Yeah. But so the things that I actually did like about the book, I feel like are not in the movie. Though I did like the movie a lot. I thought it was a good movie, but I thought that, like, the themes of the book are not in the movie. They
No,
don't
not
make it,
really.
which is like, this is not an individual cop thing. This is a system thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the movie doesn't really engage with that, like, at all.
Because it's like it's so dense, and like a lot of the reason why the book is dense is because it's a lot of the repetition and procedure. So it's going through
Mhm.
like so many little minor cases, and like just people talking about their pensions and people talking about like their career paths and what they want to do, just the very technical details, which like you can't really have in a movie and be very exciting. Like there's been a couple of times they've tried to they've developed pilots for a TV show of LA Confidential, which you can absolutely see how you can turn this into a TV show and keep all that stuff in there, make this almost like something like The Wire. Almost we're talking a tale about a city. But I think that all the repetition there, like I think it ultimately it's kind of boring to read at first, and it's really tedious at points, but it kind of gets to the point there how rotten to the core
Mhm.
this whole city, this whole police system is, how the press is, the industry, the porn industry, everything is just so rotten and nasty in the book. And I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the movie loses some of that just by the nature of like just trying to prune it down, just really just being about the police investigation and like having a couple of
Yeah.
minor things inside it, like having the Hush Hush magazine be kind of just like a very much more of a minor thing.
Yeah, I would say as well, like, there's a lot going on in the book, and it hits for people differently. I just like looking at reviews that came out at the time, is interesting. Let me see, got them right here. Like Chicago Tribune said, Elroy is a master at juggling plot lines, using a stripped spare noir style that hits like a cleaver but is honed like a scalpel. Which I think Elroy might have written that.
Yeah. I always love it when book reviewers try to like emulate the book's like complete style, and like just having the similar kind of like dialogue as the author. Like it's just like
the
you're
New
not
York
James Ellroy.
Times, the New York Times said the plotting became so torturous and the narrative style so burdensome by repetitive scenes of atrocious and arbitrary violence that the author compromises the truthfulness of his own vision. Wouldn't read.
Yeah, it's there's a little bit of gratuitousness to it. Like because it certainly doesn't shy away from the fact that, I mean, the reason that the top of the episode opens with a quote that it does was it really encapsulates, to my mind, how much of a grift law enforcement is. Like police, criminals, newspapermen, staging arrests, leaking information to each other, boosting each other's careers. It's all making a case for their own ability to enact arbitrary violence and profit off of reporting on it. And just when the book hammers that home, there's several points where it's like, oh yeah, by the way, there are people who are kidnapping children and cutting them apart and sewing them back together in these weird Frankenstein creations. So as bad as these guys are, we do need them. We swear.
Mm.
Yeah.
And like all the cops, like they maybe not Exley, Ed Exley at least, like they seem to be
Head
like
sexily.
Head sexual.
like they seem to be trying to be like they had good intentions of being a cop at some point in their lives. Like Ed Exley, he just seems to be wanting like to follow father's path because it's kind of an easy thing to do, and he likes the prestige of it all. But like there is something deep down in this book, just and I think we do get with pretty much everything involving a lot of cop media that like the cops are they may be bad, but they're a little bit necessary. But like in the end, like if there were no cops in this book, like probably society would be a better place. Like
Oh, easily,
Mhm.
yeah. Even under
Yeah.
its own rules. I have a bit of a bio on James Ellroy. This is a weird guy, y'all. Like a certified weird guy. And typically I wouldn't start with this, but I just want to read what he says when he does readings very often when he introduces himself. He has been doing this since 2005. And I've got at least him on the record doing this at least 6 times. I'm going to read this verbatim, what he says when he walks on stage. Lenore, do you know what's coming?
Yes.
Quote, "Good evening, peepers, prowlers, pederasts, panty sniffers, punks, and pimps. I'm James Ellroy, the demon dog with the hog log, the foul owl with the death growl, the white knight of the far right, and the slick trick with the donkey dick. I'm the author of 16 books, masterpieces all. They proceed on my future masterpieces. These books will leave you reamed, steamed, and dry cleaned, tie-dyed, swept to the side, true blue, tattooed, and fongooed. These are books for the whole fucking family. If the name of your family is Manson," end quote.
He would have loved something awful.
oh
You know
my
what? I think that
God.
we need to Charlie Kirk him.
We are James Ellroy.
He needs to get Charlie Kirked when he's doing this this speech.
Is there a
Yeah.
Mrs. Elroy to go like go out and party and play like go dance at clubs?
Yeah.
Like
Was a
Last
Miss
words of,
Ellroy.
this is the third book of 4, so we don't know what happens to Dudley Smith. His last words could be counting or not counting gang violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Is anyone shocked? Yeah, you said, is there a Miss Ellroy? Would you be shocked this man is divorced?
oh, this guy's whole it screams divorce. It screams
let me-
divorce. Like everything he writes about women and like honestly, it's funny. I think that like, probably like the character that he sees the most of himself in within the book, just by you just saying that, like just reading that out there, he probably sees himself a lot in Bud White and how
It's
like
Bud White.
like,
Yeah.
like
let
I
me
produce
just-
all this violence, and but like I have a bit of a white knight. Like I protect women. That's what I do. I
Yeah.
do something righteous.
Oh, just
I
wait.
do think that
Just
Bud
wait.
White is the one who has is probably the only one who I thought had any sort of moral center, even though he violates it a lot.
Mhm.
Because Ed
agree.
Exley and Vincennes are completely in it for their own thing.
Vincennes is just jacking off. Yeah, it
He only
rules.
starts
Yeah.
investing in the case because he's a little aroused by all the smut he found. Like he's
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
actually
I love that Vincennes gets seduced by pornography. That was the funniest thing in this book, where pornography made people go insane. I thought that was I mean, I guess if you are from the 50s and you've seen one pair of tits in your life, seeing all of those tits might overload your brain. It's like if a Victorian child ate a Dorito, but it's
Yeah.
tits.
So Vincennes found the video from Infinite Jest, I think.
Yeah.
Is what happened.
I was going to say, I actually was sort of pleasantly surprised by how not boring the women were.
Mhm.
I thought they were going to be way more boring than they were. Their portrayal of them was still sexist, but it felt like Kojima sexism in that, yes, these women are being portrayed in a sexist way, but at least they're doing things
Mhm.
instead of women in most video games. who don't do anything.
Yeah. And like the way they're described is like visually is very male gazy, but like they have some interiority to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it says something, particularly with Inez's arc, about what the what the total lack of recourse to any state apparatus for justice engenders in people. But we'll get into it.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about his childhood, and then maybe you can know a little bit about his relationship to women. Lee Earl James Ellroy. James, I guess, is what he decided to go by. Was born in
That's
1948.
too many names.
Yep. 1948 in Los Angeles. His dad was Rita Hayworth's business manager, which is really random.
Huh.
But his dad and his mom split up when he was young. He admits in his autobiography that him living by himself with his mom, he was incredibly infatuated with his mom. He wanted to have sex with her. He was obsessed with seeing her naked from the age 7.
Oh my God.
And he said every woman he's ever dated has looked exactly like his mom. He's been very public about this.
You could not drag this out of me at Guantanamo Bay.
Yep. Yeah. And it's like, are we? Yeah. And this is, to be clear, this started before what happened to his mom, he says. But what happened to his mom further was reinforced when she was murdered when he was 10 years old, and the murder
Oh,
was
Jesus.
never solved. Which like left him with like I guess a thing that was a quirk of his at like age 8 became like his personality because of that. He considers his mother not being found or any attention paid to her in the media, not sure whether this is true or not, to be because her death happened the same week as a known mobster and Lana Turner's boyfriend, Johnny Stompanato, was stabbed to death, because Stompanato is a real guy. He writes a lot about that in his memoir, My Dark Places, where he also admits to the sex stuff. I skimmed it ahead of this. I can't recommend it.
So is Stompanato like super hung in real life as he is in the book? Do we know?
Allegedly, yes.
That's another thing about this book. It was way more homoerotic than I was expecting.
Oh yeah, it's horny stuff.
Which I guess is like, that's pretty typical for noir stuff. Like Philip Marlowe is always like wrestling gay guys on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
insert my bit about putting Harry Dubois into this book and just seeing where things go. So Ellroy says the murder led to his obsession with crime. He also at age 10 read Jack Webb's book, The Badge. If you don't know, Jack Webb is the guy who ran Dragnet, the TV show, which I mean, this is just pulled from significantly here. He became obsessed with a woman named Elizabeth Short, who was nicknamed the Black Dahlia, who was murdered horribly in the late 40s. Another unsolved murder around the same time as his mother. He put a lot into her. His novel Black Dahlia was like his first real hit. Lonely kid. He attended a Jewish school despite not being Jewish, and according to him, got into a crazy man act where he became, again, according to him, ironically anti-Semitic. Where he says he ironically joined the American Nazi Party in high school, which of course got him kicked out of the Jewish high school.
I know of I've met people who have spent time in fascist spaces and who have gotten out of it. And what they have in common is that they don't look back on it with humor. They don't look back on it and say, yeah, it was just jokes. I was a dumb kid. They look back on it with profound shame and regret. And like, this is just like a case study, and like, just be incredibly wary of somebody who has this approach to being a quote unquote former Nazi. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, his dad died shortly after he was kicked out of high school, and his dad's last words to him were, "Son, try to pick up every waitress who serves you at a restaurant."
Jeez.
So, final advice.
This guy wrote this book.
This is like if the Joker fell into the like acid vat and it was full of patriarchy.
This is like, I can't believe James Ellroy was raised in his own novel. Yeah. So he joined the army and he couldn't hack it more than 3 months. So instead he decided to become homeless. He had a period of alcohol and benzo addiction, petty crime, off and on homelessness, a stint in jail where he almost died of pneumonia. After the stint in jail, he became a caddy at Bel Air Country Club, joined AA, and started writing. He would caddy until his 5th book, so he would caddy for like over a decade.
What is it with like caddies going into law enforcement? I think I can Cash Patel right now.
Yeah, well,
I think you probably make a lot of connections doing that. You probably meet a lot of rich guys.
Mhm.
yeah,
Doing
especially
that.
at the Bel Air Country Club, and like this was
Yeah.
the '60s at this point. Good place to
Yeah,
be.
there was a period of time I feel like where if you were just in LA, you could like some guy would, you'd serve soup to some producer and he'd be like, "Hey, son, you want to be in a picture?"
You got moxie.
Yeah, exactly.
Elroy has summed up his life by saying, this is a direct quote, "Boy's mother is murdered. Boy's life is shattered. Boy grows up homeless, alcoholic jailbird. Jailbird cleans up and writes his way to salvation. Jailbird becomes the mad dog of American crime fiction." End quote.
What?
Okay.
I'm like, it's funny though, because I'm like, dog, I've never heard of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mad Dog is not a name you arrogate to yourself.
Mad Dog Mattis. This guy's the same guy as Mad Dog Mattis. 1981, his first novel, Brown Requiem, about interfamily drama, a detective, and a caddy who hires him. In 1984 and 1985, he releases all 3 installments of the Lloyd Hopkins trilogy about an LA homicide detective. In the late 80s and early 90s, he drops the LA Quartet, which is the Black Dahlia, the Big Nowhere, LA Confidential, and White Jazz, all set in the 40s and 50s with recurring characters Dudley Smith, Mickey Cohen, and Ed Exley. Ed Exley is only in the last 2. The other 2 are in all 4.
Ed Exley isn't in the Black Dahlia.
No,
Right.
he's in White
Yeah.
Jazz. Ed Exley is in LA Confidential and White Jazz. Have you read White Dahlia, Aisha?
Black Dahlia? No, I've seen the movie, but I've not read the Black Dahlia. I liked the movie, but
Would you be surprised, dear James Ellroy didn't like the movie? He's never liked any adaptation of his works.
yeah, I mean, most writers don't like adaptations of their work. I feel like that has changed because now everybody kind of has to, since we're all on social media together, I feel like authors now kind of have to pretend that they like adaptations of their work
Mhm.
to not be rude to the people who worked on it.
Yeah, see George R. R. Martin's blog post about season 2 of House of the Dragon that was deleted within like 45 minutes.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, HBO like sent the choppers to his house for that one.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how much of this is self-mythologizing. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it is, like looking back on his life and being like, this would sound good with my detective fiction.
Sure.
He's a he's a much less anti-establishment, to the degree that he was anti-establishment, Hunter S. Thompson, in terms of how he talks himself up.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a little bit on his politics, which is, Aisha, I think you're on to something there. 1995, American Tabloid is his book that made his name Times Fiction Book of the Year. And he announced in about 2009 that he would write a second LA Quartet. He has released 2 books in it since. In 2023, he said at the LA Book Festival, he is abandoning the second LA Quartet because he's making it a quintet. And he wants to set a book during Japanese internment, which I am not.
Boy.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Not sure I'm looking forward to his take on that.
The audio would be fascinating.
Oh my God, get the same guy to do it. He says he doesn't read contemporary books at all. He eschews technology. He writes all his work longhand on legal pads. He said his outlines are usually about 300 pages long. And apparently the LA Police Department occasionally brings him in to try to get him to help with cases. And there's no record of him ever being helpful at all.
Did he work on the
I
OJ
wonder
case?
why.
I didn't find. I was really hoping he worked on the OJ case. I couldn't find anything about it, but like there were several like cold murders. They're like, would bet James Ellroy can solve it, and he like just walked around and asked some questions and made people uncomfortable and left, and they paid him.
Yeah, because even the investigations in this book are not even done in a proper normal way. Like people accidentally find clues rather than or start fucking the right person to like actually like it's not like James Ellroy is some genius that his mind is able to think of things like a Benoit Blanc kind of person. Like
yeah, there's not actually that much police work in these books.
It's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
Like it's people accidentally discovering pornography, becoming very aroused, or finding or starting to sleep with the right person. Then the right person they're sleeping with starts telling them all the information they need to know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So finally, his politics. He describes himself as an anti-totalitarian conservative. He says he aligns most with all political blocs in the world, the Tories in the United Kingdom, though he would later say he is a Tory anarchist. In 2000,
What?
he went hard for Bush, though he'd later call him the worst president ever. In 2009, he supported Obama, and then in the 2010s, he said, "No, I never did that." In 2009, he also said Rodney King murder was overblown by a biased media. He's repeatedly called himself an admirer of the LA police. However, he says he does not believe in the death penalty. When Rolling Stone asked him about his right-wing beliefs, he said, "I do that to fuck with people." His ex-wife says his politics are entirely for show. In 2014, he said, "You have to understand most of my political statements are willful misrepresentations." He's on record saying he thinks Trump isn't charming, but appreciates his fuck you attitude. As of 2022, he said, "I have stopped following politics altogether to focus on writing about the police."
Convenient.
So he's just a troll.
Yes, that's so. Actually,
Okay.
you had this dude dead to rights.
So yeah. Okay. So he doesn't actually believe anything.
I
All
mean,
right.
like, who knows what he actually believes, but like, there's no reason to take him at his word when he says he believes.
He's
something.
the worst guy at a dinner party.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
He has the energy of like the uncle you have where you don't want to be alone in a room with him
Mhm.
because he'll start talking about what a beautiful young woman you're becoming.
Jesus. He's if you're imagining the political compass, he's playing Subway Surfer. Depending on who he's arguing with, he's jumping to different quadrants in the political compass.
Yeah. So he's just a troll, which, okay, that makes more sense to like the book makes more sense to me now than it did before. And I get why he didn't like the movie because the movie is quite earnest.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I necessarily like respect the trolling energy, but I think I get what he's going for at the very least. The interview with his ex-wife was unfortunately like not as interesting as I hoped it would be. I was like really hoping we'd get like, here's the shit. The only real thing I found from that was her being like, "Oh my God, do not, whenever he says he believes something, just like don't listen to him."
Like the sanctity of vows.
Yeah. Yeah, that's James Ellroy. He's still alive. I usually when a author is still alive say come on the pod. I'm not so sure James Ellroy is invited on the pod.
Yeah, occasionally, like we'll throw around an idea. Yeah, we should invite this person on the pod and just like have fun, dunk on him. Like, but you can't troll a troll, you know?
Yeah, he's undunkable. He would dunk on us. I'm fully aware that this guy would run circles around us and trolling.
I think it would just be like we couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to start? Who wants to explain what this book is about? Because I just talked for a lot. Aisha, do you have a prose poem for us?
I don't. I didn't actually take any notes. I was too mad.
That's fair. Brian, I don't know if you know this, but or new listeners may not know this, but Aisha will occasionally just read her notes verbatim, and it's some of the most beautiful prose poetry.
Yeah. So I'll try to do it, extemporaneously here.
Yeah.
So this is a book about a bunch of fucking cops who, there's three main guys. There's Bud White, who likes to defend women, like he likes to beat up domestic abusers because his mother was killed in front of him by his father. There's Jack Vincennes, who is the guy from the excerpt up top, who is a narco cop who works with a magazine guy to set up high-level busts to then like get in the papers and get money. And the reason he does that is because when like 10 years ago or something, when he was high, he accidentally like assassinated 2 civilians. And just by the grace of God, it was never traced back to him. So he's been sending those people's kids money for years to make up for it. But then he gets like a young wife and stops doing that immediately and spends money on her instead. And then there's Ed Exley, who is the son of like, Head Sexley, who is the son of like a famous ex-police commissioner who is now like owns a construction business and is like besties with Walt Disney or whatever his fucking name is in this. I liked the Walt Disney element. Is one of the one elements that I actually liked that
It's
I
so
wish they'd
funny.
kept in the movie.
Yeah.
Dalt Wisney
Um,
or whatever the fuck they call him.
Yeah, like something like not Biederman, Felix Biederman,
Felix Biederman, yeah.
Dieterman or something.
Mhm.
I think
And
that's right.
these three cops, it kind of goes back and forth between their POV, and the inciting incident is like overnight, like one Christmas, they all get really drunk at the station and beat up some prisoners. And Ed Exley, who is like a brown-nosing little twerp, testifies against them for like to get his own career. And so everybody kind of like hates him. And then slowly this sort of like pornography / heroin / human trafficking ring kind of gets brought into it. There's about 300 pages in the middle that don't need to be there.
Some people get shot at a cafe.
Yeah. There's a mass murder event in a cafe that they immediately blame on like the closest black kids they can find, so they can say the N-word 5,000 times.
And so this voice actor for this book can do his best approximation of Dee's impression of Obama from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like Ed Exley and Bud White are like obsessed with each other to the point that they keep having sex with the same woman. Like this happens twice. They like sleep with the same woman because they want to sleep with each other. That's my review.
Challengers. I love Challengers. Really good.
Great movie.
Anyway, a lot of
yeah.
other stuff happens.
And it turns out the police were running the bad shit the entire time. and it
Yeah.
was a
So it was
kind
the
of
previous
fun
generation of police and Walt Disney.
Mhm.
Yes.
Walt Disney's gay son is there, who I liked.
Yeah.
Is that the person who they give the lisp, or is it the voice actor for the not Mickey Mouse?
No, the lisp is just a police commissioner. He's like not one of the gay guys.
Yeah, I think he just does it to differentiate.
Yeah.
He's again, aside when he's playing black guy, he's quite good
Mhm.
at differentiating. He's
He
no
gets
Roy
the
Tree
rhythm of the
himself.
dialogue really well down pat.
That's why when I started listening to the audiobook, I was like, y'all, if you're having trouble reading this, the audiobook is the way
A
forward.
lot of the dialogue is quite funny. I
Mhm.
think his prose are very like I get what he's doing, but they're so choppy that it doesn't really work. Like the way that he just drops like articles and stuff. It kind of, you know what it reminded me of? So I'm in real life, I'm a localizer, and like I localize a lot of stuff from Russian. And Russian drops articles and prepositions a lot. So I have to put them back in. And it reminds me, this book reminded me of raw translations from Russian.
James Ellroy said when he wrote this book, it was like 150 pages longer, and he went through and he like stripped out every word that didn't need to be there. And I would have recommended he stripped out like every plot hook that goes nowhere and left in some of those words.
Yeah, I have a note around like chapter 43 that's like this book gets bizarrely legible around this point.
That's
Yeah.
true. It gets more readable the further it goes. The first
Well, I mean, when the three main characters kind of finally intersect with each other and start working together, like there was a very brief period at the end that I was like, oh, this actually like is making me feel an emotion besides
Right.
like vague annoyance.
Mhm.
But it lasts like the movie gets them all together way faster. I mean, obviously it's like an hour and a half long movie instead of a 500-page book. But like, yeah, I think that if everything had kind of kicked into gear like 100 pages earlier, I would have hated this book less.
The very first paragraph reads like this. Prologue, February 21st, 1950. An abandoned auto court in the San Bernardino foothills. Buzz Meeks checked in with $94,000, 18 pounds of high-grade heroin, a 10-gauge pump, a 38 special, a 45 automatic, and a switchblade he'd bought off. Not sure if that's a slur or not.
This like sounds like a child being like, and then, and then, and then.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then Yeah, you're gonna learn words for racial minorities in this book that
Yeah, you're right.
you've
You're right.
never heard.
You're right, Jacob. Every so often, like I encountered a word where I asked myself, "Can I say that?" and I defaulted to no.
Yeah, there's quite a few words for Black people that I have literally never heard in my life and hope never to again.
Mhm.
I mean, Latinos, Jews, there's a lot. But like that's the type of shit that we got going on in this book. But like that may have that probably is how cops talked in the 1950s.
Oh,
Right.
I've seen like I've read other books, I've seen other movies where like, yeah, that is like those kind of slurs, the shortenings, like that is like what people were doing at the time there too, and like especially like, like just even like police reports and articles at the time, like those slurs were kind of just okay. Like they would just
No.
even like major publications would use those words in there to describe people or quote them and not even consider them to be slurs. Really, like
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also just and in the conduct of the police as well. Like it has a lot of historical precedent. Like they're playing a really racist holiday game right around Christmas time when Bloody Christmas kicks off. And of course, go back to our propaganda episode. I'm going to say this every other episode. Like prosecutors in Chicago in the 1970s were found to have been playing a game where the winner was the first to convict 4,000 pounds worth of black people. The polite name for this was like the 2-ton game. So like this shit is absolutely happening like
Yeah.
IRL that he's referencing. And indeed
Yeah.
so is Bloody Christmas.
Bloody
yeah,
Christmas
that
was real.
Yep.
I'm definitely not one of the kind of person who's like, you can't, like, I think that there is value in trying to make your historical fiction sound historically accurate, but just so much of this book sounds like sitting next to your racist uncle at dinner while he like tells you about the cops.
Mhm.
And I'm like, bro thinks these guys are so cool. And
That's
it's like
the
that's
problem.
what is different to me, like with like The Wire.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, because like that's one where like like a lot of the minority characters in this book are not real fleshed out people, and
Right.
you can kind of see like we talked about the women in this too and how like I think they have a sense of interiority despite the fact that they're treated with all the male gaze, the way their looks are described, but like, and like, the way that the minorities are treated and like how they talk is just like these aren't really characters. You're kind of just being edgy for the sake of being edgy and
Right.
provocative, and yeah, it's just like, okay, you're just like trying to like really shock people. And you
Right.
can kind of see it's the 90s, right? So like, that's when Tarantino's getting to start in movies too. And you can
Right.
kind of
Peak
see
shock
why.
jock era.
Yeah, shock era. Exactly. Yeah. It's like kind of just like trying to be, and I think it's effective to a point. But it's just, you're right. It gets so repetitive after a while when it's kind of like, okay, like, you could do something with The Wire where like some characters talk like that, but not everyone of an ethnicity talks like that or acts that same way. And they
Mhm.
can
Right.
have like their own plot lines too. And it's funny because I think that you could probably like maybe if Elroy had his version that was 150 pages longer, you could have had a black character with a plot line and have them, actually have a meaningful impact rather than just kind of be they're basically just the red herring and scapegoats in this rather than being a real character. And like there's you can see like a I'm fascinated by these LA Confidential TV pilots that went nowhere. One of them had Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Valance, which has been fascinating.
That
But
would have
Really?
worked.
yeah, and but like I think like yeah, because as a TV show, you could probably easily really expand this world out and keep the grime, but actually have the characters be a bit more three-dimensional and have them actually matter.
Yeah.
Because like it's just in this, it feels like they're not there. Like and I think the book is pretty smart though when it comes to really focusing on just three characters for the most part. Like it's all from their perspective and you're following them. Because if you had like, any more characters like really out there, like you know we have the Dudley Smiths of it all who are just like who are pretty major, but like we don't really get their perspective. It would not work if you had their perspective, but it's a lot of just cops and more cops, and they kind of feel the exact same. But if you were to have some of the criminal element kind of be more apparent, more realized, I think it would have been something. I think the tediousness would have kind of gone away because a lot of it just bogged down in procedure or like characters
Mhm.
kind of just like falling into their own traps and stuff. Like, Bowie talking about women beating and like Sid and Jack just talking about the magazine and what they're planning on doing with these stings. Like, it's just kind of repetitive. But I think he could have just replaced, like, I don't know, like 80 pages with just having even just like a black friend of one of theirs, which I get, like,
Yeah.
cops back then would not have black friends, but there's some other ways he could have done it.
I don't know. There is like people are like, oh, it's unrealistic that this so and so historical fantasy has like a character of color, and like honestly, like usually that's not true. Like there were black people in Europe all throughout, the Middle Ages and stuff. But it's like, yes, but we are people with, you are writing for an audience with modern sensibilities, and you are bringing your, like, the point of historical fiction is not to write something 100% historically accurate.
Right. It
Like,
would
that
be
is not
it
the
would be a
point.
nonfiction piece of nonfiction
Right.
if you're writing that.
So I think that failure to actually like sort of extrapolate on like possibilities or bring anything like unique to it, I think is just like peak like World War II dad brain.
Right.
Like this is a world, like this is yet like On the Beach. This is like a World War II dad book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet James Ellroy thought like that too. Like, it's just like he probably didn't even consider that he's probably like, okay, like, I have the edgy racism in there, but he was not really thinking like, I'm doing them a disservice, doing
Sure.
specific people a disservice by doing this.
I think it's worth noting that 6 years before this came out, you have The Success of Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, which is a book that I kept coming back to when I was reading this, because in which we had covered on the podcast 2.5 years ago now. Fuck. Time. And Blood Meridian is a book that is mostly from the perspective of, entirely from the perspective of the exploiters, from the people enforcing just horror on the frontier. A book that works very, very well, that gets its critique across very well. I think what makes Blood Meridian work, that makes this book fail, except in certain scenes, is that Blood Meridian has, first of all, there's like a coherent perspective behind Cormac McCarthy. Cormac McCarthy knows what he's going for. He knows what he's critiquing.
Right. Cormac McCarthy has beliefs.
Right. And I think James Ellroy, one, like you said, doesn't have beliefs. Two, can't decide whether he's like doing a satire, whether he's doing a brutal takedown, or whether he thinks these guys are so cool and he wants to suck them off. And unfortunately, those things trip over each other constantly in this.
Yeah,
narrative.
there's bits and pieces here where you think he's arriving at some form of cultural critique, and some sort of incisive look at the rot undergirding our cultural system. Who is it in chapter 13? I don't recall who, that says a certain element of crime should be allowed to exist and perpetrate acceptable vices that hurt no one.
Dudley. Of course, that's Dudley.
I mean, I kind of agree with him. Like, I think that I think that I did. I guess we're not really relaying the plot of this book because it's kind of just like what I said.
Yeah, you nailed it.
But like, yeah, we're not going like beat for beat. But like, one of the things that I kept thinking about was like a lot of the sources of all of like the violence and problems in this book is over pornography, which is legal now. So if pornography had been legal, none of the shit would have happened that happened in this book. Like heroin is still illegal, but like a lot of this was over a porn ring. So it was like interesting to think about like this book. Like, I know the guy, like, he says he doesn't have any beliefs, but he does really at least seem to understand that a lot of violence and criminality comes from bad laws and from the previous generation's bad behavior. Like everything that these three, not young men, but like fairly young men compared to like the older generation, have to deal with is cleaning up after their superiors making mistakes or, being corrupt. And I thought that was interesting. Like it engages with like the system is the problem in the way that I think a lot of cop media never does.
And with like the prostitution angle too, because like, a big part of this is that like a lot of blanking on the pimp's name, but he basically like finds women that resemble celebrities slightly, then patients with plastic surgery to look like Lana Turner and stuff. And
Yeah.
I feel like there's something the book didn't really go as deep into as I hoped it would, because like this is the era of like the Hays Code, where like movies
Mhm.
had to fulfill like certain, like you couldn't have sex on movies, you had to have like a, you know, couple sleeping in separate beds and such. Um you couldn't actually show police officers being being the villains in the end. So there was like a real crackdown in the way the movies were produced at this point in time. So you would not get like, there's the fetishization of film stars that's always happened, but like now if you want to see, like, you know, if you love Jennifer Lawrence and want to see her boobs, so you can watch Jennifer Lawrence's boobs in a movie, but you
Right.
can't see that back in like the 50s, because just the way that the government censorship. So there was an interesting thing with these women who are like, okay, well, like people want to see this person naked and having sex, so like they have this pornography where it's close up. It's almost like, it basically is like deep fakes, right? Of you know,
Mhm.
lookalikes of stuff. And I found that part to be pretty fascinating, but surprisingly underdeveloped. But a lot of it's because like Jack Vazans as a character is just like, I kind of love that passage when he's going through the magazines for the first time. It's just describing everything in such detail, and just like I never heard that word before for describing a sexual act. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Jack Vincennes is like, damn, I never even thought about this before.
Mhm.
Damn.
I
yeah.
think
So
what would be useful for us is if we kind of went through each of the three main characters, what their basic arc is, and like what their
Mhm.
deal is. Um,
Yeah.
and we were already talking about Jack, so I think he's a good one to start with. Uh, Jack, Aisha has already said, is a cop that is more or less considered a good cop. He's on this world's version of Dragnet, where he's just like busting people, and he's impressive and he's
Yeah,
attractive.
he's a consultant on their like NYPD Blue type
Yes,
badge
show.
of
on the
honor.
TV show. Yeah,
Badge of
exactly.
honor, yeah.
Mm.
Um, and he yeah, having also been the guy that did the unfortunate shooting that killed some innocent people a few years ago, he's the guy who, after the bloody Christmas affair, after the people are getting beaten, he gets a slap on the wrist, which is being transferred into the illicit materials department. He's no longer gets to work on like a drug and homicide, which is the shit he loves, and he's not going to get back on his beloved TV show until he breaks a major case. So he's going after this porn ring, and he's like, yo, turns out they've got this new thing, it's called porn, and it rules, and I like it a
Yeah,
lot.
turns out pornography is awesome. Like,
And it makes me think a lot of like the 1910s 1920s prohibition, and how like a lot of the organized crime in this country was able to originally flourish was because you had to buy alcohol from criminals, right? And so they set up
Mhm.
a sophisticated operation to do it. And turns out the same thing happened with pornography. When that's criminal, then it becomes a sophisticated operation. And basically, you've got Jack just going and being like, "Wow, gay people are a thing. Wow, women, you know, mixed race stuff is a thing. Wow, women wearing things that are attractive is a thing." And that's like, until the point that he like gets driven insane by it, and also feels like a hypocrite because his wife believes he's a hero. He eventually becomes like the shittiest cop of all times and gets like domed unceremoniously.
Yeah, I was shocked by how little anybody cared
Mhm.
about Jack Vincennes getting killed. Like, they barely spoke about it. I'm like, Head Sexley and Bud White are too busy being obsessed with each other to care about Jack Vincennes.
Yeah,
Well,
and
kind of shows like
those
they all, none of them like each other, which is, I, you know, of course this book is so bitter. Everyone, no one really likes anyone anyway, but like it's really shows that the three main characters, when they actually end up working together for parts, like they do not like each other. Like maybe there's the romantic tension, the sexual tension between Bud and Ed, and some rivalry going on there, but like they're not working together because they're outwardly fond of each other,
Right.
and they're willing to shit talk each other nonstop to like anyone around them.
Yeah, Bud and Ed are Bud and Ed are like two opposite sides morally of this dynamic here. Like Bud is, you know, he has a very personal animus guiding him, of course, that we've mentioned. He hates wife beaters. He, you know, it's his job to protect other women from, you know, everybody but himself, as it happens. And Ed Exley is like the golden boy, former war hero, asterisk.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get
And
there.
and like incorruptible. Like he is honest, he has principles, and even
Absolute justice.
yes, absolute
Absolute
justice
justice.
stemming from that horrific like Frankenstein child incident that I mentioned. That's supposed to sell to us that yeah, we need these guys. And like even Ed, as it turns out, is like even quote unquote the best of the best that they have morally. He's like, okay, in order to advance within this edifice and to reform it from inside, I need to cook the report on Bloody Christmas.
Yeah, he's
And
just like a rank climber.
exactly, exactly,
Which
exactly.
is so fucked up because he's like rich. Like,
Right.
you could just like go be rich, you little bitch. You don't have to do this. Like, Bud at least feels working class. Like Bud has like and I mean, like, Ed's dad definitely fucked him up, and he even like kind of says something to him at the end about that. But like, Bud is like a shithead. Like, he sucks. He hits a woman himself in the story, like when she crosses him, which, like, you know, violates his code. And he doesn't even really ever dwell on it. And he also is like the guy that he gets very used by like the villain.
Sure.
But and it's also sort of like suggested that he's not very smart. And when he does get smarter, it's because his girlfriend helps him study, which I liked.
Yeah, bro's taking online classes at like University of Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We said, yeah, Jack Vincennes, we kind of like, we said the deal on him. I honestly have very little to say on his side. So yeah, Bud is the next main one, like you're saying. Someone want to give Bud's tragic backstory?
Oh, yeah. Wasn't he like his dad used to beat on his mom and him. And then one time his dad chained him, like handcuffed him to the radiator and then beat his mother to death in front of him and then just like left her body there, and he was like left there to like watch his mother's body rot for like several days until like a truancy officer came looking for him and freed him. So it's like no wonder he's so fucked up, but also like, you are a grown man. Men will do anything to avoid going to therapy.
Lenore, we were watching this movie. When we were watching this movie, when Bud first showed up on screen, your girlfriend was like, somebody's got to like lock this dude up, chain this dude up or some shit. And then they immediately go, and then Bud immediately says, when I was a kid, I got chained to a radiator. And she was like, oh no, not like that. It was really
Baby Russell Crowe is very cute though.
Yeah, I'll chain him to a radiator, but you know.
Yeah, skinhead Russell Crowe.
Unrelated. Yeah, Brian, what were your thoughts on Bud as a guy?
I wouldn't want to hang out with him.
What? But he seems so cool and chill.
I think he's actually probably like the most engaging of the three plot lines to follow along. A lot less bogged down in paperwork. I think Ed's probably the most interesting character, but a lot of his stuff is kind of bogged down in paperwork, which is not an exciting read. But I like what Bud is, that like he, you know, again, like the way Ellroy kind of doesn't really describe like the environment so much. It's all basically in dialogue or very, very quick little descriptors here and there. And I think that looking at the Los Angeles through the eyes of Bud probably is the best way to show the world that that Ellroy is kind of trying to depict. And I found that to be his plot to be incredibly engaging. Sorry, it's been a while since I've read the book.
You're fine.
What's her name again?
It's not been for me, and I still don't remember, so
yeah.
It's fine.
Lynn. Yeah, when he like gets together with Lynn, who is a prostitute who's about to age out of the trade when she turns 30, because like, you know, by her who she's believes
got the good pimp. Yeah, the only way to stop a bad pimp is a good pimp. Yeah.
By a pimp that she
Her good
believes
pimp,
to be
yeah.
completely angelic and good. But of course, you know, this world's kind of grimy. I thought their stuff was like, you know, I liked his desire to try and find a connection. I thought that was a really it's a humanizing thing, right? And I think that of course his backstory has to go an extra like 5 degrees of being too edgy and provocative because it's this book of all books. But like,
Yeah.
I found it to be a very I was always happy to get to like a Bud chapter compared to like like, all right, we're going to talk about pensions a lot. We're going to talk about like other cops done. I found the Bud stuff to be a good engine to the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple things that this is not really on the subject of the characters, but like I did think it was interesting, like all the horse trading that's going on. And I guess we can talk about Ed to talk about this, like the beginning, like with Ed, like Ed is like the duty officer on the bloody Christmas night that he is like trying to stop them from beating up like the prisoners, and they lock him in like a closet. And
Which
he's
I'm
like,
so
Jesus
conflicted on, because I
yeah.
love that Ed gets put in a locker, but to be fair, it's not for good reasons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not for good reasons. I think that somebody should shove him into a locker just for, other reasons, but not for police brutality reasons.
Right.
But
The
he's
only
in
way to
there
stop
and
a
he's
bad guy with a locker is a good guy with a locker.
yeah, exactly. He's like, "Oh shit. All right. Well, there goes like my whole career." And so he sits down and starts writing like different versions of what happened, and like one of them is the truth that just like a bunch of officers got drunk and started beating on the Mexican inmates or
Again, a
whatever.
historical event.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
happened.
And then he like writes another version where it was perpetrated by specific officers, and they finally land on like, okay, let's blame it on the guys who we can have retire and they will get their pensions, and then a couple guys that I don't like,
Right.
like Bud White and his buddy, who is like kind of way more important in the movie than he is in the book. But like, so Ed basically just like, he's right that there does need to be some sort of like, somebody does need to pay for this. The whole fucking police department should have been shut down. But like, he's like, how can I use this to help my career?
Right.
And nobody ever thinks about like, there is never like, oh, we did something wrong, we need to make somebody pay for it. It's always like, oh, this is going to look really bad to the press.
It's always the
Right.
press. It's never
Right.
like
Who can we blame this on and have the least blowback to the department? And I was thinking about it when I was reading it, because like one of the many, many flare-ups of the Epstein thing had happened. And people were like, well, if all of this pedophilia had been happening, like we would know about it. I'm like, no, we wouldn't, because like they blame like what happens in LA Confidential is what happens in real life. There's like this horse trading of like, who can we throw to the wolves in order to protect all the rest of us from doing constant pedophilia. And I think that like that look at, and it was actually, I was surprised to discover that James Ellroy had never been a cop himself,
Yeah.
because I thought maybe he had been, because I know that I think that Chandler was.
He had spent time, in and out of the carceral system, though, so he had interacted with plenty of police officers, which is an interesting. I think that gives. That's why I find it interesting, the lack of empathy that there is for anyone who is at this sort of who is actually being hurt by the criminal justice system in this book. Like, even no matter how critical it gets of the police, I still feel there is this, as Brian identified earlier, this fundamental lack of like, what are the people who are getting fucked over directly feeling like?
Oh yeah.
I have actually seen this in real life, in that a lot of the white people I know who have had interactions with the carceral system come out of it with a deep respect for the police.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I know several people who were in jail for mostly drug offenses, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the cops, they work so hard and blah blah blah," and that's just not true for all the non-white people that I
Right.
know who've interacted with the cops.
Yeah, I think the white people I know who have had interactions with the carceral system are people who were sent there for like political reasons, like protests
Right.
and stuff, which is going to be a different animal. But you're no, that's a fair point. And maybe that is what James Ellroy walked away with, despite seeing the rot. I want to note too that the Bloody Christmas Affair, it is a success of this book, that it shows how the Bloody Christmas Affair launches the career of Ed Sexley. It sends Jack on his weird destructive path, and it puts Bud White. Dudley Smith, the super corrupt kingpin cop, basically the mafioso of the city, is able to pull Bud White.
Duplicitous Irishman.
Yeah, dark Irishman.
Yeah.
Dudley Smith is able to pull Bud White out of trouble to like basically get him on like the Mad Dog Squad, to like put him on
Yeah.
to put him on the real the real innocent person beater department. Like
Yeah.
that's, I don't know what else to call it. So it does show how this like in this racist violent incident, actually the system perpetrates further racist and horrible violence. And I
Yeah.
do think that's a successful plot beat, even if the execution is a little wonky.
Yeah, I think
Right.
I think Dudley Smith, to my mind, is very much like if you project Ed actually like 30 years into the future, where he's stayed on his course and allowed himself to become fully jaded by this thing. He believes in it from day one, but when he abandons his if he abandons his pretense of like, yeah, absolute justice, this is what he becomes, right? And I like this bit here in chapter 23 summarizes Smith pretty well. But when Dudley Smith brought you along, you belonged to him, and he was so much smarter than everyone else that you were never sure what he wanted from you or how he was using you. Shit got lost in all his fancy language, right? Like somebody who's the respectable face of the Force, who's the veteran, necessarily has to be the worst of the lot, A, but also B, deputize the Bud Whites of the Force. Ed actually says straight up at one point, Sir White is a homicidal thug. And like, yeah, if you've advanced far enough, you know how to use the people who don't know how to hide the fact that they're savages.
In a perfect system, you would not have homicidal cops in there at all. Like, and that's what I find so fascinating, is that like you have like, it's such a complex overlying system that they have there of them trying to protect themselves. Like, and even just Ed actually just like being like, his grand idea to get a promotion was just to like, well, like a few cops are old enough, they'll get their pensions, and so they'll face like a little bit of punishment, but they'll still be like in the eyes of the press, but like they'll live good lives. And it's not about actually punishing bad cops. It was like, you hear so often now, especially with all like the police brutality, like like a few bad apples kind of thing. But like in this one, like they just like like, yeah, we have bad apples, but we know how to use them. Like we can make
like
evil pie with it. Like
it's honestly like, it's weird. It kind of reminds me, I kept thinking about game dev. Of course, like everything makes me think of game dev because I'm a game dev. And recently there's been yeah. I've only ever seen the movie Game Dev. And there is so much time and energy is spent in every cycle in like every AAA studio, where there are like a number of guys who are misogynists, impossible to work with, sexual predators, annoy everybody around them. And there's this idea of like, well, he's been with the company for so long, we can't get rid of him. So there has to be like this like 3D like chess maneuver of keeping him away from the female devs and making sure that he's not working with anybody. Like, we can't get rid of this guy, so we just have to like have a whisper network to make sure nobody gets like, we have to just put so much time and energy into managing him. Because he's so good at game dev. And it's like, nobody is that good at game dev. Just fucking kill that guy.
Yeah.
Aisha, you need to understand that the only way to stop a bad misogynist that's impossible to work with sexual predator is with a good misogynist.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. I mean, even somebody like Jack Vincennes, who is hunting down like this who's trying to get to the bottom of this like illicit porn ring or whatever, right? You see it in the and again, I'm not the sort of person who says if somebody writes this, they endorse it. But like the third person close narration in this does betray a little bit of these characters' attitudes, right? When Vincennes is like running through lists of people he can shake down for information, he describes a 14-year-old sex worker as dark and witchy, and that's just there's such a sickening possessiveness. There is such a
it's also very funny that they cast Kevin Spacey to play him.
Oh my god, they did.
Yeah.
When Kevin Spacey is trying to suborn that actor into that actor into prostitution,
Oh.
that young guy, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
cinematic parallels.
Oh yeah, he speaks from experience. He does.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
we were definitely riffing over it when we were watching the film. We
but yeah,
were
it's like your legitimate patriarchy, your legitimate misogyny versus your illegitimate. You know.
Yeah.
I want to say too, I think it's interesting how the Dudley Smiths, the guys who are smart, right? The guys who are genuinely intelligent who get in there versus your Bud Whites who probably have like 6 concussions. A bad guy, but like not smart. Is you've got Dudley like hand on the shoulder, like, Bud, son, don't you want to protect
Lad.
don't you, yeah, exactly. Don't you want to protect women? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like not to take Bud off the hook, but it's interesting how you have this relationship between the brutes who are doing the vast majority of the killing, the people on the front line, and then
Right.
the people who are behind. I'm put in mind of when Omar El-Akkad came on our show, and he talked about how the end of Blood Meridian, which is like often kind of confusing. It's like, what are they doing? They're setting down stakes, and what's happening? What does this have to do with anything? Is he makes the point that you have these enforcers, these just hyper violent judges of the world, these hyper violent Glanton gang, these cops, these Bud Whites, who have a reason for what they're doing, but they're mostly like not necessarily smart people. They're just people running in with a fucking hammer and smashing stuff. And then you have these intelligent forces of order who understand completely what they're doing, but largely keep their hands clean and then impose like a pretty order and nice language over it afterwards. And I find that to be interesting. And the book doesn't totally land it. I hate that like Dudley Smith is actually like shooting people and stuff like that. I think that like it falls off here pretty hard with him doing that. I would much rather him be just a guy behind a desk, but I do think there is something interesting there.
Yeah.
Well, he has the DA to be the guy behind the desk, the
That's
guy that they eventually get out of power by being like, we have pictures of you sucking dick or whatever.
I like that they hang him over a balcony in the movie. I like that.
In the movie. Yeah, that was
That
cool.
scene. I think that's
I,
Thought that was sexy.
I do want to point out the Dudley Smith is the first cop that we see in this. Like, there's a prologue
he is.
where like he has the impression throughout of being
Kills
that
Buzz,
man
he
behind the
is.
desk guy, absolutely. But we do open up here with like it's a very in medias res opening where he's chasing down this guy who's had who's gotten his hands on a bunch of like a big old heroin shipment, and Dudley
It's the
himself kind
paragraph
of
I
steps
read at
in
the
and just
top,
mobs
yeah.
him.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
I
He
like.
does love to come in and just mog guys.
yeah,
I
yeah.
did like that James Ellroy thought I was going to be like Dudley Smith, the guy from the beginning, and not like, oh, this is the 500th name you've said in the last 2 paragraphs.
I literally forgot the beginning happened. Like by the end, I was just like, so like who, what? I don't even care anymore.
No, that is
Like there's so
yeah.
many guys.
And that is, and that is, I think, deliberate. Like the opening does leave you with the impression that yeah, you know, these there is a force of guys who are not good guys, but they get the job done. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting just like how many gay people there were in the book. I mean, they get treated pretty bad, you know, and they, you know, call them the slurs and stuff like that. But like, and it makes you think, you know, because as we all know, Obama invented gay people in 2015.
Yeah.
But like the fact
was
that
there.
like the like Hollywood is like, you know, has always been crawling with gay people. So like having that be like a big part of like this story is like there's multiple like gay characters, I thought was interesting and not something that you probably see. Like I feel like that there was more gay people in this story than there are in like modern cop dramas.
Yes.
I like
And one thing with
who's
the,
gay, like Pookie Mouse or whatever his name is.
Oh, and
Yeah.
with like a Hush Hush magazine, the scandal rag, and like how like people were always fascinated with like who's gay and who's sleeping with who in Hollywood. And I found
Yeah.
that to be a fascinating angle too, with just like how that is being tied with like setups and stuff. So people were fascinated with like, oh, is this person gay or are they not gay? And with those magazines were kind of just like trying to sell these romances that may or may not have been happening. And tying it in with the police and having the police be scheduled the bus too is a great angle. Just having like, yeah, so the homosexuality was absolutely a thing going around, or always has
Yeah.
been in Hollywood, but and just tying it with like a criminal element and having the law enforcement be part of it too.
The idea of like, you can be gay until we need to use it against you,
Yeah.
which is like kind of how it's always been, tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Right.
We talked about that with the Saint of Bright Doors as well.
There's a whole, as you said, middle section that sucks ass.
The coffee
Ed,
shop murders,
yeah,
the night owl.
Ed Exley has, you learn about Ed Exley. You learn that he's a fake war hero, that, he staged a situation to make him look like he defeated a bunch of Japanese soldiers by himself. You have Ed Exley basically, during trying to solve the coffee shop murders, basically when they find the guys that absolutely did not do it, but had committed a local crime and were the nearest black guys, he just domes all of them and is declared
Well,
to the
he
press a hero.
specifically though, he domes them for Inez. Like so both Exley and so what is
Yeah,
it? These
yeah, we should
this
sum it up.
group of local kids, these black teenagers, are picked up for the murder of these people, but as it turns out, like their alibi is that they were busy gang raping this Mexican girl,
Yeah.
so they couldn't have committed this murder. And
So
Ed
edgy.
and Bud get very obsessed with her. And I like Inez. I actually thought that she was a good character. I thought she was interesting. And she's barely in the movie. I thought that was like a thing the movie could have. Yeah, I feel like she could have been in it more. But basically, like, Inez is like, yeah, okay, so great. You've discovered that these guys aren't murderers, but they literally raped me for hours. And so, okay, so what are you gonna fucking do about it? And Ed just like goes and kills them all. Which not great, but at least like in the movie, he doesn't even have that excuse.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting. He just kind of they fire at him first in the
Yes.
movie, which I thought was an interesting change. And then, but he doesn't have like they raped this girl and I have, had to speak with her and see the aftermath of it. Which is also not a great reason to just execute people, but still, like, I thought that was an interesting change in the movie.
And with Ed, he's always obsessed with crack as one big case because his father was like a cop who was legendary for cracking the Frankenstein murder. And
Right, which actually was then you find out was like like he got the wrong person.
yeah, to help out his friend, like the Walt Disney tie in there. And
The modern Prometheus murder, yeah.
Walt Disney's like Joker-fied son or whatever. That was so weird.
It was like, oh, what's going on with this book here? But like, yeah, the reason why he's so desperate, like, okay, I can be the one to solve the Night Owl case, because like, what I like about the Ed stuff too is Ed's always talking about promotions in the sense like I can be the youngest like lieutenant by the age of like 31 something, and like that's what he always like sees himself as, like trying to be like his father, but trying to beat him to like specific ranks and such. And like, like you could see him becoming the Dudley Smith in like 30 years time, becoming a complete corrupt asshole, just because like he is only cares about his career and climbing up the ladder, and that's what he sees. He'll go like and kill the wrong people to solve the case, just to solve the case, because he'll get all the accolades, he'll get the attention, he'll get some sort of whatever love I think he wanted from his father, but it's not really getting. And it's funny because like in the movie, the father's dead. But in the book, his father is retired from the police work, now works in construction, and is now building Dream of Dreamland, which is basically like a Disneyland stand-in. Which is just like, I was just like, when I first started reading the book, I was like, this is so fucking funny, just having like a Disneyland side plot there, but like them talking about like oh, we're gonna build this, build that, like be like a wonderful testament like to like, oh, there's like the one part of the Disneyland part is gonna be for like dedicated to like his deceased son as well. Like there's a lot, the family dynamics are a lot more different, but like you can kind of see with his father was dead, they could probably like, oh, I'm trying to live up to a father who could never love me back because he's passed away now, but his father's still alive and he's still like, I just want to have the exact same career track as my father. And it's kind of just an unoriginal thing for him to do, but it's so interesting that like that just kind of drives him, because he's always obsessed with just getting the next promotion, and the next promotion is just like, does it really make his life that much more fulfilling? It's
Yeah.
not like we ever
Yeah.
not like we ever see him like really show off his riches or have fun with his wealth, or like even like
Right.
use his connections to like live a satisfying life outside of his because a lot of the corrupt cops in this, like, at least they're able to, like, sleep with more fancy people,
Women, yeah.
meet a social.
Jack gets
Jack gets a
Jack gets
socialite,
high
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, he gets high a lot.
Yeah.
He finds a socialite that he can hook up with, like. But with Ed, is just like, it's just, he's a career guy, because it's like the kid who always like cared about straight A's in school and nothing else, and it's like, it's because
Yeah.
the teacher gave him an award, so they're happy.
He also like only sleeps with Lynn. When he has sex with her, it's like about Bud. Like, even in the movie, Lynn is like, well, sleeping with me is not going to be sleeping like Bud, right?
Yeah.
She's like, like, I know what you really want to do, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, for all his pretensions to absolute justice, right? It is constantly at war in him with this desire to be respected for his efforts as well, and he doesn't get respect from his fellow cops because he cooks the books to make the he cooks the books for the testimony for Bloody Christmas to look a certain way, to ultimately like be as lenient on his fellow police as possible, and he still gets branded a rat because, like, he acknowledges that certain people have to hang for this, however cooked it is. So he doesn't get respect from his fellow police for what he's doing.
also not one of the good old boys.
Yes.
Like, he's
No.
kind of a fancy lad.
Yeah.
He wears glasses.
And on the civilian end of it, he doesn't he doesn't get Inez's respect when he's trying to go through and get to the bottom of her case, because she's like, look, Bud killed the guy who raped me, so what are you going to do? Exactly as you say, Aisha, because she has no institutional recourse under capitalism or familial recourse under patriarchy, because her family has branded her a loose woman, so she has to rely on the violence of the carceral state to occasionally rebound on those who directly harm her. So she
Right. She even like lives in Ed's house.
Yeah.
Right.
Like for a while.
And gets a
like,
job on his good graces, basically.
Yeah, she gets a job at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
No,
like,
I
gets
like that
respect
it
from his
briefly
father,
turns.
yeah.
I like that it briefly turns into a Cory Doctorow book when they were in Disneyland sequences. I think that's cool.
I do love the little tiny detail that she starts like hanging out with the Billy Dieterman,
The gay mouse.
the gay Disney son, and the two of them just sit there laughing about men, which I love.
That's so sick.
I'm like, good for you, Inez.
James
Just makes
Ellroy
friends
really-
with the LGBT community.
I don't think James Ellroy could like write that dialogue very well, but maybe someone should once this is in public domain. I think too, it's interesting, Lenore, that Ed does finally get some modicum of respect for the extrajudicial murder of 3 people. Again, 3 very shitty people that Inez had was well within her rights to want to face justice.
Absolutely.
But not the people who did the Night Owl murders. And Ed is doing this because he like wants a girl to like him. Because his own insecurity. Not because he's like, I feel so bad for Inez.
He doesn't want to seem like a pussy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he wants to be cool.
And insecurity born from as well, like the his status as like the golden boy, his status as a war hero who can come home and like and instill that heroism in our systems here at home. That too is a lie, as it happens. Like very early
he
on.
knows he's a fake.
He's famous for like clearing single-handedly 3 trenches full of Japanese soldiers during the Second World War. And what he did was he stumbled across a flamethrower and just burned a bunch of corpses and called it a day.
Yeah, think he's Sergeant York.
But that's exactly like his fake war story is exactly what kind of cop he is, right? It's like, whatever narrative you can spin, like, well, the people who I want to punish are deceased, so it should count, right? Like, it's just who he is, and it's how like law enforcement kind of functions in this world. Is that like, does the truth really matter? Until like the press really starts hounding, like, oh, like, what if this is kind of like, what if they didn't get the right people? Like, then it's gonna be egg on our face. But like, it's all about perception. It's not actually about justice. It's about just like the perception of justice, because whatever equilibrium they got going here, like, it's just a matter about keeping whatever systems in place there that the press has, the police have, and the criminals have. It's about keeping this nice little everything kind of level there, but it's not about actually trying to make the world a better place.
Right. The only person who really seems to care about that at all is Bud sometimes when he's like trying to help women, but like I think he almost seems to do that like compulsively.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not really like
Yeah,
it's just like a compulsion he has from his childhood.
because you can see the with like Bud's origin story there. If you mean change her radiator and watching his mom decompose, like that's kind of thing that like a serial killer, like a Thomas Harris book would have of like their origin story,
Yeah.
and he just channels
Yeah.
that to becoming a cop, and like it's almost just like you can see like his instinct to like if that was a serial killer origin story, that's like what makes him want to just like kill on command, but he just channels it with like you know beating up women beaters and wife beaters and such, and like it's just it's instinct. It's not really him being doing the right thing because like of some moral purpose, because he's not smart enough to really think of that for the most part. He's just kind of just operating on his just a reaction.
And unfortunately, when he does end up beating a woman, they completely flub the scene, because I think that could be a really interesting moment. Like, I think it could be interesting. Bud has betrayed his values that he ostensibly had because this thing has just made him a violent piece of shit. Unfortunately, it writes it in like he saw he couldn't break her and he saw like dignity in her. It was like, I hated how they wrote it, but I do think there could have been something interesting there.
Yeah, because Lynn is just like almost like a punching bag
though.
at that point, just like talking back. Like she's not really weeping too much. She's just like kind of accepting it. And it's kind of like, well, like if he was truly breaking the person he absolutely loved or claimed he loved, it would have felt like something truly that could have affected Bud down deep to the core. Like it does. He is feel like some remorse to it, but it's not just. It's really just her taking all this in and just having her talk back to him like as like a bit of a mirror to himself.
Right.
But it just doesn't. It kind of removes like her as a character is pretty interesting, but I feel like that scene she kind of loses a lot of what makes her interesting.
Right.
Yeah. She should have hit him back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also like it isn't kind of interesting like the ending where like I think the ending to the movie and the like the last scene to the movie and the book are very similar. Like Bud kind of gets out in the way that like Exley does not. Like Exley is just kind of alone with all the corpses that have just piled up around him.
Oh yeah.
And there is this tiny little moment, at least in the movie, where like Lynn is like, well, you could like come with us and get out of this. And you can join our polycule or whatever. And like he's like, no, I'm too insane and work brained. I could never do that. Like and Bud does leave. Of course, like he's gotten like shot like 40 times or whatever to save like he like throws himself in the way of or like pushes Ed out of the way. He like saves Ed and takes the bullet for him.
It's a classic person being faster than bullet moment. In film and kind of in the book, because the book ends basically with all this coming to a head. Jack dies for his investigations. Jack sucks. He doesn't need to be in this book. You really could have like made. I really think this book could be better if you cut everything with Jack. You make Bud and you like put some of the porn stuff with Bud, and you just cut like a third of the text.
I mean, if you had Bud and Ed like team up earlier, like the movie does, like halfway through, where they just kind of punch each other in the face for a while, and then they're just like, okay, we like each other now.
And then I think that works better, and like it's like a 2-person, it's tighter, it's less confusing, there's less spiraling shit. You could even have the porn stuff work with Bud because it's like he's got issues with his mom and with women, and like, there could be something there.
Also, like, I liked Jack's section. I felt like it could be a whole different book, like about a cop who is like, because the Hollywood stuff is mostly Jack,
right?
So I feel like that could have been a different book. Like,
it doesn't work here in the same way, but
no.
The end is very much the Bud and Ed show, and they're just sprinting towards a final confrontation with Dudley, and
because it's
a
revealed
final
that
cover up
with Dudley that it's like Mickey Cohen, like the real life gangster in this book, like
who I liked.
I
liked him.
like how he has a little dog in his jail cell. Like,
yeah, he's cool.
He was like an offensive Jewish stereotype, but he was extremely funny.
And and the audio book narration of his dialogue.
Yeah, he gives him this kind of voice like this.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably his best voice he does. Like because So yeah, Mickey Cohen, because he got arrested, so his heroin, his drug, his prostitution and porn racket are all just like out in the open. So the Night Owl murder was actually kind of a cover to you know, acquire the drugs and such, and then the people who were killed during it were the people who were the witnesses, I think. uh so
Yeah,
like
it's a very like there once was a lady who swallowed a fly situation where
mhm.
you have like, okay, so I did the porn, but I did the murder to cover the porn, but I shot the guy to cover the murder to do the like it really does end up being like thing after thing after thing, like layers. But in a way that I believe actually a little bit more than some of the other stuff in this book.
Yeah, and like it's kind of a bit tidy how it all is just Dudley Smith doing everything with it, but
Fucking Dudley.
like it kind of works for just how the book is about like nasty corruption. And so yeah, at the end there, like it's like he organizes like a train, like there's a, a convict train has like a big like breakout there, and the mass is a big shootout, and like it's kind of strange how just like I kind of like how unceremonious Jack's death is. It's just like a random guy just like pops
Mhm.
him. Like
Yeah. It's way more dramatic in the movie.
yeah, because like they have a in the movie, it's just like Ed has this one thing where he talks about the guy who got away, and it's the name he has for that person. He's only told that word to Jack, and then when Dudley kills Jack, that's like his final word to Dudley, and then Dudley repeats it to Ed later on, and Ed clues it in together that like, oh, this is like he's the one that killed Jack. And it's kind of like a bit
Yeah.
it's a pretty self-contained for a movie, but it's also pretty
It's a smart
contrived.
shorthand, I
It's
think.
shorthand, but it's
Yeah.
kind of contrived in a way. uh
Yeah.
but because it's like this like this fake person he's come up with, like the one who got away, like it's only used for scenes just to tie the whole case together pretty neat and pretty fast, whereas like
Yeah.
this takes a lot of them just uh like finding the truth from like a pimp, finding the truth from like talking to like Lynn and everyone, talking to basically getting basically the women are the one who tell them like, hey, this is what's going on here, here's the truth of like how things operate in this world that you weren't seeing before.
Right.
So I'm saying that's why Bud, Jack, Ed should have listened to women, I fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That
Truly.
the
Hashtag
message
believe
of this
women.
book, James Ellroy, his whole life motto, I believe, is to listen to women. That
Yeah.
seems
Hashtag believe women. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
about this. Thoughts on the climax of this book?
I thought the stuff with I thought the stuff with the dads was more interesting than the shootout stuff for
Same.
sure.
Yep.
Like Ed's stuff with his dad, like how it was like this like the child murderer from like the Frankenstein case was actually a secret son of Walt Disney who has like the Joker brain disease that has the mental illness that makes you a pedophile or whatever.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to cover up that he did this, like everything was basically. I thought that was interesting, even though it was
Yeah,
kind
because
of
like the
stupid.
sins the father, if Preston's whole like career was based on a lie, and his son's career is also based on a lie as well, as kind of a cycle of like how rotten this whole system is.
And
Right.
the book ends with a massive lie, right?
Mhm.
Because they can't just let Dudley take this complete fall. They can't be like, hey guys, so it turns out the entire LA police department was the mafia,
Mhm.
right? Like, we can't do that. And so they're like, well, what can we do? We can turn Ed and Bud into heroes. We can turn Dudley into a guy who died in the line of duty. Ed can become the new like god king of the LA police department and be miserable for the rest of his life, but get everything he wanted. And he can still be around in white jazz in the next book as like an important guy. And Bud can ride off into the distance with like 17 bullet wounds.
Yeah, it's like jaw wired
Yeah.
shut, can't talk.
Yeah,
But I like
which is
that,
probably
like
for the best.
yeah, like just Dudley just they kind of gets away with it, but like the fact that he gets in the end, people get their promotions, people get their medals of honor or whatever they're called, and for this, it's just everything is going to keep on going as it was. It's not like you know the police work next week or next month is going to be even better. Like this whole story takes place over what, like 7-8 years, and It's not like the police work has gotten better. There's been multiple scandals that have happened. There's multiple huge incidents, and there's been no actual real effort to improve how the system works. And decades later, even to this day, it's not like police work is that much better. Like,
Right.
No,
we have lady,
especially not in LA.
we have lady cops
No,
now,
yeah.
but like, you know, they're still killing people. Like,
I would
Now
say,
women. Now you can be shot by lethal force by a woman cop.
how progressive.
you know, I think I'll actually link in the show notes some journalism that's been done recently on the LA police gangs over the last few years, because they are the most notorious in the country when it comes to like literal like neo-Nazi gangs, really only competing with like the NYPD for like that level of fucking like just organized like fucking brown shirt shit. But like, I guess the end, it's tough for me, right? It's tough for me to sit to like, I want, when I lay out the plot, when I explain it, it sounds like such a strong critique of the system in a way that when you walk away from the book, I don't feel.
Yeah.
And,
I
you know,
like sitting with it for a while. I feel a lot more like I feel more positively about the book, like thinking about it, than I did reading it, for sure.
Same.
I think just the experience of reading it is so unpleasant
right.
that like that it sort of just, it sucks all of the interesting critique out of it, because you just have to listen to these shitheads call a black teenager the N-word like 40 times.
Yeah.
And it's just so unpleasant.
Yeah, the strongest, like the ones that are the bits that are easiest for me to read, that I don't feel like I'm slogging through. Like Aisha, I completely agree with you that it reads like it's localized from some. I have a note here that's like it's Clockwork Orange without the poetry, right? It's such a slog normally the prose is, A, and B, like the bits where it flows best for me are when it's not bogged down in the procedure and in the bigotry of the moment, and when time is passing and it's rendered as like headlines, brief news snippets, and you see people advancing that should not advance. You see incidents being reported in ways that are completely foreign to how they actually went down, and you're like, okay, the momentum of this is so much bigger than any individual trying to make sense of it all. That's where the book is strongest.
Hey, Lenore. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, hear me out.
Sir.
Clockwork Orange County.
Oh.
So,
welcome to the
what?
Clockwork OC, bitch.
I mean, you could
More
probably
like
get
more like
Mountain
clock,
Star.
more like clock doesn't work. Orange County. More like that.
One thing I did enjoy finding out is that, like, as I always do when I'm like thinking about something a lot, I go, because like the book is like, the book and the movie even more so are very kind of homoerotic at times. So I was like, I wonder if people write like slash fan fiction about LA Confidential. So I went, and there is a lot of Bud Sexley, and the most popular fics are written by Naomi Novik, who wrote, like, is a famous fantasy writer who has a well-known AO3 where she writes like Witcher fan fiction and stuff.
Holy shit. Naomi,
Yeah.
you are invited on the podcast.
They were quite good, actually.
Okay.
The fics that I read.
I like that we have our Aisha is our Workers Lit fanfic correspondent.
Yeah, your resident fanfic correspondent. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's LA Confidential. What do we have any final thoughts on this book before we get to the end here?
Like, I overall enjoy my time with the book, but like you're right, like the middle of it was a real slog of just repetitive procedure. But yeah, the more I thought about it, the more I kind of enjoyed my time with it, especially thinking about like it's the machinations of how complex it is. I don't think it all makes a lot of sense, but like, or I don't think it all comes together perfectly well, but I really do think that like there is something about how grimy this world is and the way he paints it that seems pretty interesting, even if it does appear that he's just coming across as a bit of an edgelord. There's some good things in there, but hearing about how James Ellroy is as a person is just like, okay, you're just trying to be a big shock jock as a book.
Right. That's where a lot of it falls apart. Is like this is a guy that's gone to bat to defend the LA Police Department, that's collaborated with them, but then is also trolling about it, and it's just kind of like, who is this guy? What's he doing? But at the end of the day, this is a guy that after writing this book took money from the LA Police
Oh
Department.
yeah.
And I can't respect him too much
There's
after
a bit
that.
in chapter 44 where Jack Vincennes he plays his hand the most in the Jack chapters when like Jack foils a
Marlon
robbery and
jacking
he's
off.
recognized for like somebody who's killed 3 men in the line of duty, and he's like, "Sorry, I'm really better at shooting unarmed civilians." Like he knows exactly the
Yeah.
sort of people that he's working with here. And yeah, the fact that this is an area of play for him rather than like critique is just something that turns my stomach.
And he's a guy who can say, I'm no longer paying attention to contemporary politics. I just want to write about policing. Like, he understands the irony in that statement. He's not stupid, to be clear. Like, he knows he's trolling with that. He knows people are going to be in the replies saying, but policing is political. Like, he gets it. But also at the same time, he is serious too, right? Because his irony is seriousness. He is just, at the end of the day, a dude looping in on himself. He is an Ouroboros.
Yeah, and
But if you dig it, you dig it. You know, parts of it work.
Right. If when you're a white guy, you don't like it doesn't have to be political for you.
yeah.
Right.
Like because the violence of the state is never going to come after you.
Yeah, he is
So-
not one of the 500,000 people in this country detained without ever and caged without ever having seen a judge. He is not, a foreign head of state that can be, as of this morning of recording, captured by foreign forces, which themselves in their own way are also cops. Like it's
Yeah.
something that he can. I called Hunter S. Thompson a court jester, and this guy is so much more reveling in that label.
More like a court in the law sense. Jester is more like what he's like.
Yeah.
Is a lot like that. I'm cooking today. Well, you know who else is cooking? Brian. Brian, over at Moviepod, you're doing some really fun stuff. Tell folks one more time where to find you.
Yeah, you can follow me at I host Moviepod at Reclaim Cinema Podcast, which you can get anywhere you find podcasts. So yeah, you can also follow me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. I do a lot of actually stuff on Letterboxd. So I'm at my tag is at B Wishart on all of those. I also do some writing for Hard Drive and Hard Times, some comedy writing there. So you can just search my bylines on that site.
We've had friend of the pod, Johnny from Culture Dumpster. Johnny's been on Brian's podcast. I think some of us may in the future. We'd love to collab at some point.
Love to have you on.
One more thing I'd like to throw out as well. Aisha has a Patreon for All My Maidens, Elden Ring, and now just general video games podcast, primarily Elden Ring. But you talked about Baldur's Gate 3 just the other day with friend of the pod, Brian Alford, and I was listening to it on my drive home yesterday. Was a really good listen, and I just gotta promote that both as a friend of Aisha, a collaborator, and as a fan of what doing over there, because it was a lot of fun. So if you listen to the show and you're a fan of video games, which I know a lot of you are, that is where.
Yeah, if you played Baldur's Gate 3 and you were like, oh, this is a game about sucking and fucking, but also like 200 hours of grinding in a fantasy dungeon, then this is but mostly sucking and fucking.
Or if
this is the podcast for you.
If you like Elden Ring, or if you don't like Elden Ring, it's also the podcast for you. Just go listen to the Brian episode about Elden Ring. If you want to hear me be horny for Moog, you can also go on there. All kinds of.
If you want to hear us be homophobic about Roger,
yes, correctly homophobic. Mm-hmm. So all kinds of fun stuff.
Also, yeah, as usual, like you can read this book if you want to, listener. My recommendation is you watch the movie and then you go and read the pornography that Naomi Novik wrote about it.
So true. Well, next week we will be covering T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. So hold on to your hats for that one, because I don't actually have a because it's a poem that's important. I don't know. I'm reading a whole book about this fucking poem for this podcast, so y'all better listen to it.
It's a good poem.
It's a good poem. It's not good enough to read a whole book about it, but I'm committed now. Yeah, Lenore, do you have anything for us to close out here?
I mean, look forward to next week. We deal in exclusively bangs, no whimpers to be found.
Yeah.
Lenore is the cruelest co-host. Is this anything? All right, folks. Y'all have a good one.
Hey,